Well, hey everyone, long time no live video, huh? I've been on a little Facebook holiday and I've got to say, I've really enjoyed it. So I'll just wait for a second, see who comes online, see who's joining me here. If you are joining me, let me know that you can hear me okay. I always like to just double check on that. And perhaps if you're watching this in a replay, you can just hashtag replay in the comments so that I know that you've connected with the content. But you will have seen, as members of this group renamed the Aligned Leader, and it used to be Frequente's Lit Leadership Intensive program. The new group reflects a shift in how I'm thinking about leadership, how I'm working with my clients, the kind of problems that I'm solving with them, and really this idea of leading in alignment with ourselves has come to the fore, and that's why I've renamed the group and restarted it. And if you're already in it, thanks for being here. My purpose behind this video is to welcome you back into the group, or to welcome new members if you're watching this later down the track, and for this group to be a place where I can share resources, offer support, give a place to connect for people who are experiencing overwhelm and burnout because they're leading such big, important change initiatives. And the people who I love working with are those who are, I say, good people doing good things in the world. And what that means is if you're working on improving a social agenda or environmental agenda, or you're even working on profitability and governance agendas with the inclusion of the environment and social agendas, then you're in the right place in this group. So yeah, if you're wanting to help people have a better experience of being on this planet, and you're doing that through your work, then you are in fact in the right place. So a lot of my posts you'll see will be pitched at leaders of sustainability change, and it's working in that ESG, environmental, social and governance agenda, and it's really targeting the people who have been at this game a while. They're likely at the top of their field, they're likely highly qualified with a really significant track record in creating positive change in these realms, and usually they're very clever, smart, kind people, and they're the ones that I really love to work with in my client experiences. The thing about caring so passionately about a cause, whether it's the environment or social justice or anything of that nature, and these working with these big wicked problems like climate change or improving health outcomes in the community, or attracting resources into the workforce and keeping them engaged and retained. They're big wicked problems given the way that the world is shifting right now, and when you are so passionate about contributing to those problems, we can find ourselves overwhelmed and burning out. And anyone who knows me knows that that's territory that I have visited myself, and I know it pretty well, but I also know the pathway through it. And I've already made some posts that are in the pinned and featured posts of this group that explain really in raw and honest terms what my experience of burnout was, how I navigated it, and also how I help my clients through it. So if you're leading big change agendas, you're feeling the overwhelm, you're feeling the burnout, and you want to feel more peaceful with greater clarity and still have a big impact in the world, but you don't want to do it at the cost of your well-being and health. It kind of can feel like it's you or the cause at some stages. If you're wanting that, then you're in the right place, because I'll be constantly posting in resources and conversation that help you think about that in a different way. The clients I'm working with right now are usually technical specialists. They're engineers, they're scientists, they're accountants, they're educators, they're strategists, analysts, community leaders, who all care about this ESG, environmental, social and governance agenda. And like I said, they're working into this really wicked problem space. There's not problems that can actually possibly even be solved in our lifetime, and yet they're still worth contributing to. Perhaps not even our children's lifetime. There's multiple lifetimes that we'll need to work across to make a difference in this wicked problem space. And yeah, for the leaders that I work with, they feel the urgency to solve problems like climate change, like what's happening, for example, at the interface of agriculture and environment. Some of my clients are trying to feed people without, as they say, effing up the planet. Now that's a big load to carry, and working into this wicked problem space can really see us burning out and not being able to sustain, at the worst case, our contribution into solving that wicked problem over time, because we've given too much too soon, and we just can't sustain the journey of contributing to this problem over our career and lifetime. And when that happens, the leaders who come to me for support, leadership coaching support, they complain of some really common and predictable things. Yes, firstly, the wickedness of the problem, as I was just mentioning. They complain of unclear priorities, difficult stakeholders, or difficulty in engaging certain stakeholders. They complain of governance structures that that are challenging to get right for the project outcomes and how we measure success in programs of change, and getting those governance structures right and aligning all the stakeholder interests so that everyone who's contributing to the project feels like they're getting out of it what they came for. Really complex environments. And speaking of complexity, these problems aren't easy to solve. They need robust, often scientific approaches, engineering solutions, new business models, new levels of social awareness, habit change and acceptance about the direction. And there's a lot of ambiguity in that space, a lot of uncertainty, and like I say, a lot of detailed complexity. And for a person who's leading a big change agenda and who's at risk of overwhelm and burning out, that complexity, the ambiguity, the uncertainty can feel really heavy, and quickly lead you down a path of exhaustion. The other thing that's happening more recently in the last 5 or 10 years is the idea of transdisciplinary approaches. And that means that no longer are we taking a single discipline approach to solving these wicked problems. So no longer do we get, for example, a collection of engineers together to solve the problem of transitioning to renewable energy. Okay, it needs community leaders, it needs finance skills, it needs business modeling skills, it needs social science so that we can understand how communities will change and respond to this. It needs government and policy interaction and support. It needs funding. It needs to engage workforces and communities themselves in what a transition looks like to renewable energy, particularly for the communities that are affected by that. So no longer are we taking just a single discipline approach to solving these big, hard problems. We're bringing together multiple disciplines. And what happens these days is when multiple disciplines get together, Sure, we could bring together all of their deep disciplinary expertise, but what happens at the intersection of when those disciplines start to discuss and exchange ideas is that we find ourselves in brand new territory. We're not working into my discipline and we're not working into yours. We're in some weird, unknown, new, fresh space in between that we're creating together. And that takes a level of leadership maturity and facilitation, communication, stakeholder engagement, negotiation that we haven't seen before as we approach these big, wicked problems. And when leaders come to work with me, they're feeling the heaviness of all of these issues wrapped up, and they're also feeling the urgency to solve problems. And this is why I've created this group. That heaviness and the urgency that they feel is burning you out. And when you go through burnout, what you'll realize is it's serious. It affects your capacity, it affects your productivity, it affects your identity, your sense of self, your value in the world, how you see yourself in the world. And burnout is really an experience to be avoided, or if it's too late for that, navigated really carefully. And so what I help leaders with when they do come to work with me is creating this shift from looking at all of the problems I've just outlined around all of the complexity of change leadership these days, and I turn them towards their internal environment. And I help them with three key things. The first one is refreshing and updating their leadership approach. So you're going to need to know how to lead yourself well, lead others well, how to set your teams up for success, strategic thinking skills, program design, workshop facilitation, influencing, negotiation, how to find agreement where there doesn't seem to be much agreement going on. Those leadership strategies will likely need an update and a coach alongside to help you be effective in those tricky situations. The second component I help people with is their personal mindsets, and specifically I use NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, and a particular branch of that called timeline therapy that helps identify and eliminate at the root cause some of the negative and heavy emotion that might be holding you back in your leadership, in your life, in the impact you're trying to make through your work. Through NLP, that is how we address those personal mindsets. And in one of my posts, there's a link to a free training about NLP and timeline therapy that I've got in there, and you can go and see what that's about. The third thing I help burned out leaders with is self-care practices and a bit of spiritual development. And this is about putting the human experience, the triumphs and the challenges, into context, into perspective, so we don't feel so alone in it, and so we know how to take care of ourselves in the experience of leading these big long-term change agendas, like I said, some of which will never be solved in our lifetime. And if you don't take care of yourself through that process, you could end up burned out, you could end up shortening your career, and certainly not being able to create the impact that is possible with your potential. So they're the three areas that I help leaders with when they come to work with me: their leadership strategies, their personal mindsets, and their self-care and spiritual development practices, so that you can take care of yourself in the process. I've got an offer in the group at the moment if you want to work with me. I'll probably include the link actually to that offer in the comments, and you can read what that's all about. But basically, when a person comes to work with me, after we've had some initial conversation and we identify that we're a fit, and by that I mean the quality of problem that the client is bringing is a really good match for the quality of solutions that I provide, or the type of solutions that I provide. And once we've established that and we agree to work together, we do so for 6 months. We start off with an onboarding process, which is possibly like one of the most powerful conversations of your life in terms of understanding what's possible from your starting point, wherever you are, what's possible for you in leadership. and setting some really beautifully stretching and supportive goals in that onboarding conversation. We also have, in that space of 6 months, 2 face-to-face days where we work together. One is all about strategy and leadership strategy, and then the other is all about mindset. And like I said, we'll be using NLP in that second day to conquer some of the mindset things that are holding you back. That's a very powerful set of processes. Anyone who's experienced that will know how powerful NLP is. And then after those 2 face-to-face days, we've got a series of calls and assignments in between to make our face-to-face time even more potent and powerful. So yeah, there's like a real rhythm of supportive conversations that we establish over that 6-month period, so that you can start to get some wins on the board again, start to feel your well-being return, start to feel peaceful and clear and in control of your world of work. Throughout that 6 months, you also get access to me for support one-on-one, 5 days a week, through texts and calls and messages and whatever suits us together, and access to my online resource library, which is the Lit Leaders Intensive. Everything that we cover in our face-to-face time together is pretty much supported by the content, 40 videos and another 40, 50 worksheets in the Lit Leaders Intensive. And some of those resources, examples of those resources, I'll make available through my posts in this group as well. So yeah, thank you for being here. My encouragement is for you to engage with the free resources if they're resonating with you. Let me know with likes and comments if they are resonating with you, so that I know what to offer you. Reach out to me for a conversation in the DMs if you'd like a particular topic addressed, and I'll do my best to do that for you. And yeah, I just wanted to say welcome to the group, and thank you for being here. That's probably about all I wanted to cover for today. So if you've watched this live, thanks for tuning in, and if you're watching it on the replay, perhaps you can just let me know in the comments. All right, I'll talk to you again soon.